Hey guys, welcome back to the gear room. Today I'm going to be going over my specific line diving setup. I'm going to go over a few pieces of gear that I think you should absolutely include in your line diving setup. Hopefully some money saving tips and tricks. I'll go through some brands that you should invest in and maybe some brands to stay away from. So let's get into it. Josh Munoz here, professional underwater photographer and freediving instructor. I have curated these items to be what I think is just like the best setup that you can have for line diving. It's saving you time, it's saving you headaches, it's just making the efficiency of once you get in the water to dropping the line to raising the line and all the little pieces in between the best that you can have. So starting from the top, looking at the float. This float specifically, this is from the brand Molchanov. I very highly recommend investing in a good float. Stay away from some of those cheap items that are on Amazon because they're gonna just bust on you. Get something that's well designed, well built. This does not have like one of those extra little inner tubes. Stay away from those. Those things always kind of just pop or the sun really kills them. I have had this thing for years. I use this thing so often. There's zero sun damage. I have maybe just like a few little rips on the top of this mesh zipper, but that's about it. Besides that, this thing looks brand new. This specifically is their 80 centimeter float. I would recommend getting this float because this float can hold this 100 meter line perfectly. It doesn't like bulge out. It wraps up real nice and small on the inside. And the zippers on the top, you can now throw masks, nose clip, lanyards, cameras, GoPros, whatever you need inside this float, and it's just gonna be able to hold everything. Molchanov's came out with a pro edition of the float. It's probably $100 extra, and honestly, with how well this sport edition has lasted me, I don't really see the need to spend the extra money. They say the pro version is gonna be a bit more durable and be able to hold like a bit more air to just be a little bit more buoyant, especially in choppy waters. But seriously, I've never had any problems with this float. And again, I use this thing all the time. Moving on to the next item that you need to get is going to be a pulley system. I waited several years before ever having one of these because I just didn't see other divers using it. And I was kicking myself the very first day I finally got it, wishing I had had it all those years prior. This makes just dropping and raising the rope much easier, much more convenient, and honestly, it's a lot safer to have this in an emergency situation. Invest in some nice carabiners, hook this on to the very top of the float, and it's really simple to use. I do like the Molchanov brand better than some of the other brands. Octopus makes one, but it's just very small and just doesn't fit into your hand as well as this one. Really nice and sturdy, great design, well worth the money. Next is gonna be just the line in general. You can buy line from big brands, again, like Molchanovs and other companies, but save yourself money and buy a nice line on Amazon. I would recommend getting a double braided polyester line, something around 150 or 300 feet, depending on how deep you're diving, and somewhere around the range of about a 10 millimeter thickness. Again, some companies will sell you line and some will even sell you the line pre-marked. That way you have the depth exactly dialed in to where you need to drop the rope for that desired target depth. But again, you can save a ton of money by just taping the line yourself. If you ever dive with me, you would notice I have a lot of just black tape that runs along my line. Specifically, I have a piece of tape every 5 meters. And then every 10 meters, once I start getting in the increments of 20, at 20, I would have 2 pieces of tape. At 25, there'd be a single piece. At 30 meters, I'd have 3 pieces of tape, and so on and so on. Now, the further down the line I go, especially at the 50 meter mark, instead of having 5 pieces of tape, I start adding a bit of color. So this tells me once I get to the red that now I'm at 50 meters. At 55, there would be 1 single piece of black tape. Then at 60 meters, I would have, again, the red, but now 1 additional piece of black tape to tell me it's that 50 plus 10, so now I'm at 60 meters. Yes, taping the line does take couple hours of your time maybe, especially getting those first measurements perfectly so that you have everything kind of measured out exact. But it's better than spending an extra $150 on a pre-marked line. Also near the bottom, I have added the candy cane markers. Technically, I do need to extend this because some rules just changed in the freediving world that this mark can now be up to 3 meters in length. So soon I do need to actually retape this. Also nearing the bottom is a very important item that you should get. This is a Lanyard Stopper. You can purchase them from Octopus or brands like Molchanov. You can also just have a tennis ball, cut it, and kind of just tape it around the bottom of the line, and that'll work perfectly. Normally, these come in usually bright colors. Recently, I spray painted mine because if you dive where I'm diving in Hawaii, there are a lot of sharks. And more than once, I have had sharks come in and just check out that bright orange ball at the very bottom of the line, because that's a color they're gonna be extremely attracted to and something they're gonna be able to see from very far away. I would not recommend having a shark flasher with your level 1 students because that freaks out a lot of people. Again, the lanyard stopper, it's gonna just stop that lanyard once you touch the bottom. It's gonna basically tell you it's time to turn around, and it's not gonna allow your body to drift past this point, which should be like the bottom of the line, and accidentally run yourself into the weight at the very end of the line. I do have a bottom plate down here. I don't really use it often. It's kind of nice sometimes to put an action camera at the very bottom and look up and be able to film at really deep depths to see maybe what your turn looks like at 50 or 60 meters, but not necessary. It is important to have this extended so that, again, it's not gonna be shorter than the length of what a body might be once the lanyard catches here, again, so that your head is not running into the weight that we will attach to the very end of the line. Now, how do I go about organizing 100 meters of line or 300 feet of line? Because I don't want to get this tangled, and once I get in the water, I want to be ready to go quickly. Well, that's by using this method of a daisy chain, specifically a double daisy chain, which I think really just manages your line and organizes it much better. I'll show you now how to do a daisy chain. To do a single daisy, it's very simple. We're gonna start with the line and just one loop. Now I'm gonna put my hand inside that loop and grab the rope in front of me, pull it through, and now I've created another loop. Again, put my hand in front and pull it through, and so on, and so on, and so on. And this is going to keep my line nice and organized. And when I'm ready for it to come out, I can easily pull this line out and drop it down. Now, the double daisy chain, in my opinion, is faster, and it helps just organize the line even more. So, same thing, but this time we're gonna do 2 loops, and I'm gonna use both of my hands. So 2 loops, hand is inside each loop, and I'm going to, again, grab the line in front of me and create that next form of a loop and keep going, so on, so on, and so on. Again, when it comes time to pay this all out, it's going to feed out nice and clean. To lock this, if I know I'm not going any deeper than a certain point, I'll just take the 2 ends, the 2 loops, do a simple overhand knot, pull it tight, and now that kind of just prevents extra line from paying out. Again, at the end of the day, once I'm ready to go, I can untie this, put my hands in the 2 loops, and start going about the daisy chain again. Seriously, learn how to do a daisy chain because, again, it just helps organizing a lot of rope. Again, 300 feet of rope is so much to manage. You don't want to show up in the water and have it all be tangled up on you. This just helps even with transport and the ease of dropping. Now, at the bottom of our system, we need to have a nice heavy weight. It is always recommended you should have at least 15 pounds. Really, I think the minimum should be like 20. I like using something heavy like 30. A 30-pound weight is gonna be much harder to pull up from the bottom, and honestly, it's gonna show you or maybe your students, or it's gonna just tell you if you are pulling this weight up from the bottom, you are pulling way too hard. No one should ever, on their way down, let's say if you're doing free immersion, pull up a 30-pound weight off the bottom. That line should be looking nice and straight that entire time. I like kettlebells. Yes, they can be kind of expensive. You can usually find them used online quite easily. Some people will take a weight belt and string a bunch of weights on there, clip it off, and then kind of tie that onto the bottom. To me, that seems sketchy, and the chance of it coming unclipped and then myself losing all my weights just seems too high. And honestly, lead weights cost nearly the same as what a kettlebell costs. Take some extra rope and extend where your weight is going to be clipped on to the bottom of your line so that, again, your body is not going to be running anywhere near close to this weight, and you've got yourself this perfect setup. Now, for a few other items that I seriously recommend that you include in your setup is going to be lanyards. Lanyards are safety items that should be worn when you're diving deeper than 20 meters, if you're diving in really bad current, or if you're diving in really bad visibility. One side is going to attach to your wrist or to your ankle. The other side is going to clip onto our dive line. And now if anything happens, we are always going to stay attached to our dive line. Honestly, I really like diving with lanyards. I feel super comfortable when I'm wearing one, and it just feels like I have a super good safety team on top, but with me at all times. There are several brands that make lanyards. I really do like the octopus lanyard versus the Molchanov lanyard. Yes, the Molchanov lanyard, the design is honestly better. It just looks and feels like a better product. But this carabiner that's on here is very heavy. And when you're diving, especially free immersion, this carabiner will just always be dropping in front of you, and it's hard to catch up and be in front of the lanyard. Whereas the octopus lanyard, it definitely weighs a lot less, and it's just easier to get in front of and not kind of that feeling of being tangled or pulling against the lanyard. It is recommended that lanyards should be switched out every 2 years just due to Velcro not being as sticky over time and the wire on the inside becoming rusty over time. The last item that I'm gonna recommend you include in your setup is going to be some form of a float. Either take some pool noodles and tape them together, or invest in a nice deluxe party noodle. Having a nice float during rough conditions is really nice, especially if you're diving with a nose clip or the waves are just so choppy. Now this way I can sit on the float, kind of close my eyes, relax, and I'm not catching water in my mouth. You know, I can dive more comfortably with that nose clip. It's really easy to just use some simple line, have it attached to your float or to whatever is keeping your float attached to your boat, and now this isn't gonna drift away from you. I love this setup, and I really recommend that you get just all these exact same items. I would say my friends enjoy diving with me just through this setup. It's just simple, easy, it's fast, it's convenient. Spend a little extra, have a float with you, again, on those rough conditions. Invest in a little bit more weight at the bottom. But the most important things would be a pulley system and lanyards. Get those no matter what. Yes, the float, again, you can spend a little less, but I just don't think they're gonna last you as long if you don't invest in a nice float. Hopefully this guide helps you get set up on your very first line dive setup. Please, if you have questions, leave them in the comments below. I will happily respond to those. Like always, I will drop the links to all these items in the description below on this video as well. Thanks for watching and safe diving, guys.